After this week's Spanish Grand Prix, the race for third is very tight. Right now, Racing Point holds the position at 63 points, which is counting their 15-point deduction already. McLaren has 62 and Ferrari has 61. And obviously Mercedes and Red Bull are 1 and 2. So, Lucas, I ask you, which team is most likely to capture the third spot when the year has wrapped up?
I like Racing Point in this race. And I mentioned it earlier. I think they have just one of the fastest lap pace cars, and I think that obviously helps, even if they don't necessarily have tire management or sort of those aspects of it down. I think just having so quick a car helps, which, they copy a lot of it from Mercedes, but what can you do? They're moving in the right direction. I can see them snagging a podium really soon. Even when they had to sub out Perez because he had COVID, Hulkenberg came in, and in his one race he was able to race. Mm-hmm. He, put in a points finish. And I just don't think you see the level of consistency, at least in the past few weeks, from the other teams that Racing Point has put in. McLaren, despite a hot start, seems to have slid back a little bit. Mm-hmm. Sainz and Norris do split it evenly, which is good, in which you aren't relying on one driver to get all of your points. But I don't know. Like you said, sixth is what you might expect, but they just don't seem to be consistently putting in those results, and that worries me a little bit. And I just don't think, again, they have as fast of a car. And speaking of over-reliance on one drivers, I know you might dispute this a little bit, but I think Ferrari is a little bit over-reliant on Charles Leclerc. Yes, Vettel picked up the slack a little bit this week and was P7, but I don't know. P7 isn't P3 or P4, which are the performances you've seen Leclerc put in. So I just think if Leclerc sort of falls out and has a bad race, I don't know if Ferrari necessarily has what they need to pick up the slack. So I think, honestly, if I'm going to pick anyone to finish fifth out of those three teams, I think I might pick Ferrari just because their car doesn't seem to have it. I think they're over-reliant on Leclerc. The thing with Vettel's a nightmare. And I just don't think they have the speed that Racing Point does. So my pick overall, Racing Point. Jared, what about you?
Yeah, I am actually going to agree that Racing Point will take third, just for pretty much all the reasons you've mentioned. At times it looks like they could unseat Mercedes in a qualifying round, the Racing Point car, and then obviously Mercedes just kicks it into some other gear and is able to get rid of it. But Racing Point is the only team, other than Mercedes, obviously, to out-qualify Max at least twice. Ferrari's done it once, but other than that, nobody's out-qualified Max Verstappen besides Mercedes and Racing Point. So their pure pace, is just has to put them in front. I think Ferrari's going to be fourth, though. McLaren's fifth. Even though at the start of the season, I picked McLaren to be the best of the rest. I think they're kind of falling down towards the mean, I guess, back to their average where they outperformed in the first couple races. So I think that because I think that Vettel is getting a little more comfortable with this year's car. Like I said, I think he covers when Leclerc has a bad race. And of the six drivers, between Racing Point, Ferrari, McLaren, Charles Leclerc is the best of them. So I want to lean that way, And think about it. If you take away their double DNF in the Styrian Grand Prix when they ran into each other, who knows where they would be? They could be 15 points ahead of Racing Point right now.
Yeah.
And then also, though, Racing Point has the 15-point deduction, so they would be 16 points up on Ferrari right now, which is why I think they'll kind of start to run away with the third spot. And just McLaren. Yeah, they've just fallen back down to the earth, I guess, a little bit. So,
yeah, agreed. If Charles Leclerc is the best driver amongst the six drivers on those three teams, who do you think is the second best?
Yeah, that's such a good question. Close? No, it's really. I think it's really close this year. This year between Checo, Lance Stroll has been racing really well.
Yeah, Lance Stroll's been really impressive. I was a doubter at the beginning of the year. I think I told you this, and I might have said this on the podcast. I'm he's only there because his dad owns the team, but he's put in a lot of impressive performances this whole season. I think I've been swayed. He's been really good.
Yeah, and I believe in the Drivers' Championship he's even with Sergio Perez, which obviously Sergio Perez had 2 races eliminated from him, but Lance Stroll's doing well. I mean, I don't even know if I want to say who's better between Carlos and Lando. It's kind of hard to say right now because one of them has a great race, and then the other one's and then the next one has a great race, blows out a tire, and then the other one's it's hard to say. If you push me though, what my answer? So Charles Leclerc is the best out of them. I'd probably say Sergio Perez is the second best this year out of the rest of them.
I'd agree with that. I think I could go with one of the Racing Point guys, and I think I'd give the edge slightly to Perez just because he has the one less race, which sort of makes up for his difference in the driver's
Two
standings.
less.
Two less, yes, that's right. He missed both of them. I forget because Hulkenberg didn't start the one race that race like even existed for Racing Point.
Right.
So yeah, I think I'll agree with that as well.
Nice. Yeah, well, if you guys are watching, let us know what you think. Who do you think is going to hold on to the third spot? And which of the 6 drivers are... Why don't you rank those 6 drivers? But that's going to end our episode. As Lucas said at the start of the episode, please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. We have a full episode on Apple Podcasts where on YouTube we just put excerpts. We really appreciate you guys listening, and if you comment, comment and subscribe. It'll let us know what content is successful, and it'll help us make the channel even better for you guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and have a good week.